Creating content for any platform requires often a lot of content. And if you're doing videos like I am, which are more educational, talking head type videos, it means that you're going to be talking about the same thing over and over and over again in different ways. So let's talk about how you can keep your content fresh. I am a creature of habit. I really like to find a good system, a good way of doing things, and then repeating that and making my life as simple as possible. I'm very busy. I do a lot. I like to travel a lot. I work a lot. I'm running a business with Allie. We've got a lot to do. So I definitely like to find the simplest way to do something and then just make it repeatable. But that doesn't always create the most creative environment. And when you're creating content, you definitely don't want to get stale. So let's talk about a couple of different ways that you can do this. You can do it in a way that is simple, it has a system, but you can still keep your content fresh. My first tip would be to watch your videos back. The more you get comfortable on camera, the more you're going to be able to bring out your true personality or a personality in general, right? If you're watching your videos back and you're like, pretty stale, pretty monotone, pretty slow talker, you're gonna bore people pretty quickly. And there's been times where I've watched my videos back and I'm like, you know what? You do need to bring up your pace. Like, even though I feel like I'm like talking fast and excited and like have this high energy, sometimes it doesn't translate as high on camera. Think about a performer on a stage. If you're way up high in the balcony and they're just performing to the person in front of them and they're keeping everything really small, that person way up high in the balcony is not going to feel that performance, right? So they have to like project their energy out into the audience. You want to think about doing the same thing. The camera is going to like bring down your energy level like 3 notches. So you might feel like you're being over the top, but then when you watch your videos back, you're like, was I even awake that day? Like, I'm being so boring and I'm talking so slow. So you're gonna wanna bring up your pace a little bit, bring up your energy, and the best way you can do that is by just watching back your videos, seeing what weird things you're doing, then taking that to your next shoot and elevating all of it. The next tip I have is to bring on a guest or a co-host. Having somebody else to bounce your energy off of can be really, really helpful, especially if you're starting to feel stale. There's a couple of reasons why having somebody next to you can be really helpful. A, they're gonna bring a different dynamic to the video. They're gonna bring out a different energy in you. Stefania might say something that sparks an idea for me and I'm like, oh yeah, we should totally talk about that. Whereas if I'm by myself all the time, I might start getting a little bit too repetitive. I've seen clients bring on a guest and all of a sudden you get this rapport and this banter that's like super fun and like, you're like, okay, I want you to be able to bring this all the time. You can't. When you're speaking directly to a lens, you can only give so much. And some people are really, really good at it and you'll get better at it the more that you do it. But it's never going to be quite the same as if you can kind of bounce that banter off with somebody else. Now, that doesn't mean you should do every video with a guest or with a co-host. Just do some of them. It'll help keep your content fresh. The next thing I would say is to change up your location. I do have a couple of different locations that I like to use within my house. So it's helpful in keeping things a little bit fresh, but even that can sometimes feel a little bit stale if I'm constantly using the same locations. So last month, for example, we went up to Park City and we did some videos outside. Being outside, meeting new challenges as we're filming, kind of reinvigorated that excitement in me so that even though now I'm back in my house, I've got this new energy, this revived energy that maybe I wasn't filming 2 months ago because I was like, oh, seen the same spot, I'm doing the same thing. It just kind of, not only were those videos kind of new and fresh and we were doing different things, we were trying different things, we were like experimenting with the type of content, but it also reignited sort of that excitement that I have now that I'm back in my basement by myself. The next thing I would say is pay attention to what your audience is liking and interacting and adapt your content. You may have started your channel thinking like, I'm just going to talk about mainly this subject and then I'm going to sprinkle a few of these other things into there, and then you find that your audience actually likes this thing over here instead of what you thought you were going to talk about. Now that gives you the opportunity to really dive deeper into that subject. Here's an example. Let's say that you were talking about real estate and you thought that your audience really wanted you to talk about Airbnbs. So you planned all this content about Airbnbs and you kind of sprinkled some ideas of like how to get business credit. Sometimes you would talk about how to get a long-term rental as opposed to a short-term rental. And you realize that less people are interacting with your Airbnb content than they are with how to get business credit. So then you're going to start making more content on business credit. It doesn't mean completely abandon your videos on Airbnb. It just means that your channel isn't going to be like 7,000 videos of talking about Airbnb. It's going to give you other opportunities of other things to talk about, which is going to keep your content fresh. You can also think about a different viewer for each time you make a video. So let's say I make 3 different videos on why you should do video marketing. Maybe in the first video, I'm talking to a 50-year-old male business owner that has a multi-million-dollar business. The next time I make that video, I'm imagining my hairdresser who's in her mid-30s, has a smaller business and is just looking for different ways to kind of branch out. And maybe in the third video, I'm thinking of the 20-something-year-old starting out entrepreneur that probably has a lot of comfortability with the idea of making video content, however, doesn't really understand the marketing world yet. All 3 of those videos are going to be completely different. It's the same subject, but it's not going to be delivered the same way. It's not going to have the same exact content. So that's a really good way of keeping your content fresh. Any social platform is a long game. It's not something that you want to just dabble in, do for a couple months, and then give up. So you're definitely going to want to think of different ways that you can keep your content fresh. You're going to be doing a lot of videos. We started our channel back in January of 2022. We've made over 150 different videos. And so you can imagine that some of those subjects really start to feel stale if we're not thinking about these ways that we can keep our content fresh, that we can mix things up, that we can bring in people, that we can think about the different viewer that we're trying to communicate with. There's a lot of really fun ways that you can keep it fresh. This should be a really fun and enjoyable process. The final way I would say that you can really keep your content fresh is by bringing in a producer that can help be your second ear, that can be listening to what you're saying, giving you different ideas. Sometimes when we're working with a client, they'll be like, I know this, I understand insurance. And as we're listening, we're like, I don't understand that. Like, can you say that in a different way? Can you break that down a little bit better? What does that mean? So we're able to help freshen up their content just by being a viewer for them as they're filming their content. We have an entire service where we love to help people grow their YouTube channel. We create all the videos for you. We're producers. We love to be behind that camera, freshen up your content, make you feel comfortable on camera, help you deliver the absolute best content that you possibly can. So click the link in the description box below. You can talk to a producer. We can figure out if we would be a good fit to help you. Otherwise, make sure that you subscribe. We have a lot more great content just like this, where you can learn and understand how you can do this yourself. We are your video allies. You've got this, we've got your back, and we cannot wait to see what kind of content you create.